before you go ahead and query the API, you're first going to need to authenticate. The Investec API uses a modified version of the OAuth 2.0 standard, which requires the API key as an additional header to be added to the query. So when you authenticate, you'll then receive a secure access token known as a bearer token. You're going to need that bearer token for all of your outbound API requests. The token does only last for 30 minutes, so remember that you will need to refresh that. So if you're new to APIs and want to get familiar with using the endpoints, we recommend that you create a free Postman account and then use the Postman collection that we've created. So there's a collection for both the private banking API and the CIB API, as well as the programmable card API. So once you've created an account, please just remember to fork the collection that's then relevant to you before continuing. So to take you through it step by step, within the collection, the first thing that we're going to want to do is head over to the variables tab to set our environment variables. So we're going to insert our client ID, our client secret, and our API key into that table. And next, we're going to then navigate to the folder called auth. Within that folder, we have the authentication query, which just posts to the Investec private banking API. There's obviously an equivalent CIB API. And we see that the auth type is set to basic auth, so we're using basic authentication headers. It's also using your client ID and your client secret that you've set. Under headers, it's using your API key to set the API key, XAPI key header. And we're also including the grant type as your client credentials in the body. And we expect that in response to your client ID, your client secret, and key, the endpoint was then going to return a secure bearer token back to you. So let's go ahead and post that. So after sending your auth request, a typical response is going to include your access token. It shows us that the type is bearer. It's also telling us that the token does have an expiration time, which is 30 minutes, and also which permissions or scopes the token will provide access to. So to make any future API calls, make sure that you copy that bearer token and paste it into your environment variables table so that you can use that in all your requests going forward. It needs to be given the designation bearer in those requests. And just remember, it's only valid for 30 minutes. So at which point you're going to need to request a new one by calling the same endpoint.